Last year I took a poll. I asked you guys whether you'd rather see the Hellraiser series or Paranormal Activity. And Hellraiser won by a pretty large margin, but I promised that I would cover Paranormal Activity the following year. And here we are, and I keep my promises, so we're going to cover the continuity and the timeline of the Paranormal Activity series, and see how this all goes, and prepare yourself for a lot of shots of empty rooms. The activity started back in 2007 with the original Paranormal Activity, which starts off by letting us know that it's September of 2006. And Mika has just bought a new camera to record the phenomenon that takes place in their house that they have just moved into. Moving is the greatest terror. Katie says this stuff has been happening to her since she was 8 years old, and her sister used to see a black mass by their bed, and it's connected to her and following her. This psychic just kind of knows that it's a demon after like a 10-minute conversation, and usually I have to hunt down the date for a movie, but this one flashes up on the screen like every 10 minutes, so yay. Spooky stuff starts pretty simple and then escalates to sleepwalking and burning Ouija boards, demon footprints, burned photos appearing, and the greatest horror of all, this guy's acting.
I think I'm doing more harm being here than any good. Yes, I really have got to leave. And Dr. Avery's will be back in a few days, and when he gets back here, he'll take care of all the problems.
What should we do? Should we leave? Should we...
Leaving won't help at all.
There's a previous incident from the 1960s, and everything culminates off screen, and Mika's dead, and Katie's possessed and currently missing. Quick shout out to Mika for being on my top 10 of characters who make every stupid decision possible in a horror movie. Good job, Mika. It took a few years to get a sequel going, but in 2010 we got Paranormal Activity 2, which tells of a new family and their new baby, Hunter. And Katie appears, and she's totally normal, so it looks like we're taking place before the events of the last film, and this is Christy, Katie's little sister, who they talked about in the last film. Their house is robbed, so they put up security cameras, and then we see that it's August of 2006, about a month or two before part 1. Mika shows up, and it says it's 60 days until his death, and spooky starts, and Ouija boards get brought out. Is this a thing? Do people really just bust out Ouija boards whenever they think there's a ghost around? The demon messes with little Hunter. Katie worries that Christy is going to end up like their mom. Quiet. Quiet. Loud? Christy gets dragged away and possessed, and we discover that the family is cursed because someone made a deal with a demon, and the price is the firstborn son of the family, and that's little Hunter. All hell breaks loose, and Daniel burns that photo from the first film, and it jumps to 3 weeks later, and we lead into the beginning of part 1, and then jump to 1 day after Mika is killed. Demon Katie shows up, kills Daniel and Christy, and takes Hunter, and you just watched a movie where a key point is a demon messing with someone's pool cleaning equipment. 1 year later, in 2011, the next chapter comes out with Paranormal Activity 3, which kicks off by telling us that we're in March 2005. So each film just keeps going back a little bit further in time. Christy is pregnant, and Katie's here, and we flash back to September 1988 and meet the girl's mother and little Katie and Christy, Mom's boyfriend, and we see that photo being taken. Strange stuff happens, so Dennis sets up cameras, and hey, quick math. If Katie's 8 here, that makes her born in 1980, so in the first movie she's 26 and Christy's 23. So stuff keeps happening, and judging from this whole film series, I'm guessing that the common fear among the general public is doors opening and closing on their own. That's really, really big here. There's talk of a witch coven that deals with demons offering their children up, and things escalate, and quiet, loud. So they go to Grandma's. But she turns out to be a witch, and after the demon kills Julie, Grandma kills Dennis and takes the girls. I know there's a mention of not ending up like their mom, but you would have thought that they would have mentioned that their mom and her boyfriend were both killed or something. So they were cranking out one a year now, so in 2012 we see Paranormal Activity 4, which starts off at the end of Part 2 in 2006, and then we flash to Halloween of 2011 outside Las Vegas with a new family, and they get new neighbors with a spooky kid who, looks around 6 or so. Wonder who that could be. Robbie has to stay with them, and then there's this weird sort of extended ad for the Kinect, and characters' decisions to videotape, like everything has less and less reason. So spooky stuff starts to happen, and to be honest, it's pretty much the same spooky stuff from the last ones. Door closing, stuff falling, Shining ripoffs, and apparently Toby's new jam is getting a little Wyatt here to sacrifice a virgin. Katie shows up as Robbie's mom, and Wyatt was adopted, and there's a little kid ghost or demon here, Nightmare on Elm Street ripoffs, and it turns out that Robbie isn't Hunter, Wyatt is, and Katie is trying to collect him, killing Mom, and then Ben, and then Dad dies, and then there's a whole bunch of witches, and Alex is killed. Questions. The first couple of films had the thing at the front saying the footage was given to Paramount from the families, implying that they're real events, but what about this one? I mean, if they're saying it's real and unsolved mystery, I mean, Katie bought that house. You ever buy a house? The paper trail is insane. Also, Katie walks off with Hunter, so how does he get adopted? Why am I trying so hard to make sense of this? It took a little longer for the next installment to arrive, but in 2014 we got Paranormal Activity The Marked ones. It starts off by telling us that it's June 2012, so we're a little more than 6 months after the last one, and we focus on a Latino family in a poor neighborhood. Their spooky neighbor is killed, and Jesse and Hector go into their house and find Christy and Katie's stolen videotapes, and Jesse gets the bite. And I guess gets superpowers? Weird stuff happens, but thankfully and inexplicably, they carry a video camera like everywhere they go. There's some stuff about a bunch of missing firstborn boys called the Marked Ones, and Jesse sees little Christy and Katie, and then Allie comes back to give them info about the witch coven. Then, after 4 movies of low-key stuff, boom! CGI portals. They go to where Allie says the ritual will happen, and it's Grandma Lois's house from part 3, and witches attack. Marisol dies, Jesse becomes full demon, and Hector, time travels. To the end of the first one to witness Katie killing Mika, and is then killed by Jesse. The end. The following year gave us 2015 Paranormal Activity, The Ghost Dimension, which picks up in 1988 at the ending of Part 3, and then jumps to 2013, so about a year and a half after the last one. And then we meet a new family with a video camera addiction and its mother face. Get that reference for a prize. They find a really odd-looking video camera that registers weird things, and also those old videotapes, which have footage of the girls being spooky. And it turns out that this house is built on the same ground as Christy and Katie's old house, the one that burned down. Weird stuff starts happening to little Layla, and guess this is Toby? He's like a oil tree or something, so like in part 1 when you were wondering what was there the whole time, guess what? Oil tree thing. And as more stuff happens, there's more and more of Toby, and it turns out Hunter and Layla were born on the same day, and Hunter ends up in 1992. And then a magical portal opens up, which Layla enters, because that's what kind of movies these are now, and Carol Ann goes into the light. They attempt to exorcise Toby, which results in CGI stuff, and Dad dies. Mom goes back to 1992, where she sees young Katie and Christy, and they say Toby's real now. He kills Mom, and I guess that's it. So now I know this can be a little confusing, so if you want to watch this series in chronological order, here's what you got to do. You got to start with part 3, which takes place in 1988, and then you have to go back to part 2, which takes place in the early part of 2006. And then go back to part 1, which takes place later in 2006. After that, that's when you jump to part 4, which takes place in 2011, and then the Marked Ones, which takes place in 2012, and finally cap it off with the Ghost Dimension, which takes place in 2013. So there you have it. It's 6 movies that actually have a pretty strong continuity between each other. Not a lot of things that don't make sense. The storyline doesn't really make a lot of sense, but the continuity at least does. Now, there was actually a bunch of unofficial tie-ins and spin-offs and like knockoffs, but I think I've learned my lesson with the Amityville series, and I'm not going to cover those. You should do it. Your fans love when you cover all of the films, no matter how bad they are. I don't know, dude. There might be boobs in them. I'm going to cover those. So back in 2010, there was an unofficial spin-off film in Japan called Paranormal Activity 2 Tokyo Night, which follows a young student who was injured on a trip to America, and after they suspect ghostly activity, they set up cameras. After things escalate, they try a purification ceremony and reveal that the accident in America involved running over Katie. And they say that she died. And a web search shows us that we're set in 2010, so if we're following American continuity, this happens before Part 4, although obviously Katie did not actually die. Haruka gets the bite, crosses catch fire, dead bodies appear, and Koichi flees and accidentally runs Haruka down, although when he comes in to identify the body, the demon kills him and continues on. Asylum did a knockoff series known as a mockbuster called Paranormal Entity, which arrived in 2009 and starts on October 25th with a 911 call and a notice that Thomas was arrested for raping and killing his sister and another person, and has since killed himself. And 1 year later, this footage was found. Much like the film it's knocking off, they've already experienced activity, so are taping to catch more, and Dad died a year ago, and everything basically follows the formula. Lots and lots of shots of people sleeping, doors closing, and things get crazier as Samantha is tormented and Mom slashes her wrists, so a psychic gets involved, who explains the demon rapes girls in their sleep, and it straight up jumps to the psychic dead, and Samantha assaulted and killed by the ghost, and yeah, it's over. There's no date in the actual movie, but Asylum's website declares the film to show events from 2008, and then their forum actually has people debating about whether or not the forge is real. 1 year later, a sort of sequel came with 8213 Gacy House, which was also marketed as Paranormal Entity 2. The opening sets us up by giving us info on John Wayne Gacy, the real-life serial killer, and tells us that this footage is from 2006, making this a prequel. A group of paranormal investigators enter the house and set up cameras, and of course, spooky happens, and Gacy talks to them.
Yeah, right.
My thoughts exactly, John. People get scratched up, and in my favorite bit, they show this computer screen that shows it as May 19th, even though we're supposed to be in March, and they accidentally get the whole thing in frame and have to blur it, so you don't see the actual date, which I'm going to assume they didn't switch from either 09 or 10 when it was filmed. More stuff happens, and no one, leaves. And then finally, Gacy's spirit shows up and kills everyone while pulling their pants off. This is pretty bad stuff, guys. Also, the coroner reports show that the autopsies were done in April of 2006, so if this was supposed to be real footage, and their marketing is being edited by the police in order to find out more info, then why did they blur the date? What are you hiding, the Plain Police Department? Another year, and in 2011, we get Annalise, the Exorcist tapes, otherwise known as Paranormal Entity 3, the Exorcist tapes, which tells us that this is real. I don't believe you. And that the footage is from 1976 and from Germany. I guess it's supposed to look like old film, but it's clearly HD video and high quality sound. So, this girl is mysteriously ill, and they install what looks like security monitors, which weren't readily available back in 1976, and then there's this whole science versus religion thing going on, and they rip off The Exorcist every chance that they can get, and it's overall, pretty painful. The demon says Maron, German for nightmare, linking it to the first Paranormal Entity movie, and Annalise kills the science guys, and the priest exorcises her, but she then dies of starvation. The following year brought us 2012's 100 Ghost Street, Return of Richard Speck, again also known as Paranormal Entity for The Awakening. It starts just like Gacy House, with a group of investigators now going to the spirit of Richard Speck, and they tell us it's 2012. At least things happen here, as this guy's head gets chopped off, which is a lot better than waiting 40 minutes to see a door open. But there's really nothing here you haven't seen in a found footage movie with a bunch of people in a house. So I guess if you want to see that again with different actors, go for it. Speck attacks, everyone dies, especially me, a little bit, inside. 2013 also brought Paranormal Asylum, which, although it definitely wants to cash in on the title, doesn't really fit in. I mean, it uses a bit of found footage style, but it's a mostly regular style film, although it's really kind of boring. So I guess it has that in common. 2013 also gives us Paranormal Movie, an attempted parody of the film series by Chris Farley's brother, with quick turns from the sane Busey, Tommy Ross, the Roberts who will do any movie whatsoever, Hercules, Ted Stryker, Menunos, Sex Tape Scandal Guy, and look, I'm assuming this is the first you've heard about this movie. Maybe me talking about it is making you say, hey, I should seek this out. Don't. Remember on SNL when there'd be that one skit wedged into the show that wasn't funny and went on forever because they had to fill up time, and that's this whole damn movie. That same year saw another parody, 30 Nights of Paranormal Activity, with the devil inside the girl with the dragon tattoo. Get it? They put a bunch of movie titles together! Isn't that hilarious? Hard pass. 2013 strikes again with 616 Paranormal Incident, and if you're like me, when you hear 616, you start to wonder if this belongs in superhero timelines. This is a group of investigators wearing head camera rigs investigating a haunted prison. Tex Diaper shows up, and they find a mysterious woman, and it occasionally seems to slip out of found footage. It's kind of hard to say if they're trying to present this as an entirely found footage or not sometimes, and I guess zombies factor in, and ghost lynchings, ghost kids, and honestly, it's as boring as can be, but it does have some decent visuals in it, and the end credits let us know that this is actually Paranormal Incident 2, although I was completely unable to track down a copy of Paranormal Incident 1, and I'm kind of okay with that. In 2016, there was Paranormal Sex Tape, which is really, really weird. It's not found footage, features practically no dialogue, and I guess if you want to watch softcore porn, don't even watch this then. This might be on my list of top 10 worst things I sat through for this channel. Oh, there was also Paranormal Activity, which I didn't watch. So there you have it, a bunch more movies that don't really have anything to do with Paranormal Activity, but I just figured I'd put myself through that, I guess, for you guys? I don't even know why I did that. But there you go. All in all, I mean, not the most exciting movies. I will tell you this, Paranormal Activity movies, I kind of compare them to porn. If you take a porn movie and you cut out all the sex scenes, and you probably have about 10 minutes of an actual storyline. The rest is just sex scenes. And I think if you take all the Paranormal Activity movies and you cut out all of the footage of a room where nothing is happening, you'll have less story than that. But, oh well, there you go. Let me know what you thought of this video down below in the comments. Let me know if you want to like and subscribe. Tell me what other videos you want to see, other series that you want, and I'll respond. I'll answer any questions you guys got. Let me know. In the meantime, also check out my Patreon page over here, and check out my patrons up here as well too. These guys are awesome, so thank you to these guys. And in the meantime, I'll see you guys again next week for another great video. Thanks, guys. Bye-bye.